It's the Daily Dispatch in discussion with Daron Mann.
The Daily Dispatch in discussion today following a story which broke yesterday. The High Court in East London granting a court order to members of a faction of the ANC who wanted the recent meetings during the month of February and March in the Dr. Rhubusana region to be nullified and the voting that took place there to also be nullified. Joining us from the group that obtained the court order is Mr. Ondela Sokomani. Thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Darren. Thank you very much. And thank you to the viewers of your and followers of your platform.
Only a pleasure. Only a pleasure. Just talk us through the nuts and bolts of this. Have I got it right? We had the meetings February and March of the Dr. Rhubusana region for the ANC. Certain irregularities are alleged, and you want the results of any voting there to be nullified in terms of that court order. Have I got it right?
Yes, pretty much so. However, I should first start by clarifying that we're not members of a faction, Darren. We are branch members and activists of the organization. We are volunteers of the African National Congress who saw it fit to venture into alternative avenues to seek relief following what we believe was an undermine and an abortion of the ANC's inter-party democracy on the lead-up to the provincial conference, which is why we approached the court, because we had been unable to obtain relief internally in the organization.
What goes to the heart of your objections about what happened at the meetings?
Well, as I said, at the heart of it is the blatant obliteration of the ANC's inter-party democracy principles and the erosion of the ANC's culture by those who are currently occupying positions of leadership at the level of the regime at the time. Now, that was on the lead up to the provincial conference, and even now. What had happened, Darren, you would recall, when we went to obtain the interim order, which was the court interdict that had barred Rhubusana from convening its own regional conference, we had brought to court concrete evidence, affidavits, and even death certificates of people who were deceased, who were alleged to have attended and elected delegates and leadership of branches for the attendance of the provincial conference. Now, between me and you and your listeners, there's absolutely no way. There's no way that O.R. Tambo, that Nelson Mandela, or even Dr. Rhubusana can be in attendance at a meeting, at a branch general meeting of any kind, because they're gone. They've been deceased, and may their souls rest in peace. So we had our anchor point is that the stealing and the total undermine of proper organizational processes and disregard of the ANC's guidelines on how meetings should be conducted is for us the gravest point that we are trying to fight. Remember, we are activists for social justice, but there is no way that we are ever going to proponents of social justice for the rest of society, if internally in our own organization, we're unable to deal with matters of injustice. And so that is what we're trying to deal with here. And quite frankly, I must address the fact that in the ANC, both in the region and at the level of the NEC, we had thought that there would be an emergence of a higher level of consciousness and be able to deal with what we saw as the heist. People are parading that they are proponents of a branch heist, the grand branch heist of Rhubusana, on the lead up to the provincial conference. And for us, that was very disturbing. And I must continue to further reiterate the fact that it's unfortunate that, in fact, those who purport themselves in the ANC, both in the region and some degree at the level of the province, to be proponents of the ANC's renewal and unity program are in fact the most unscrupulous characters. They are direct beneficiaries of unscrupulous activities. What we cannot, that is the type of erosion that we need to put a halt to in the organization if we're indeed serious about renewing the ANC and setting it on the right path as a leader of society.
Mr. Sokomani, so before going to the courts, before approaching the courts for relief, I am sure you engaged with the other factions or other parties who you disagree with. What was their reaction?
We wrote, we emailed, we called, we lobbied leadership to give an ear. We made reference. We cited clause in the Constitution and in the guidelines for the branch general meetings. We tried to appeal to comrades that regardless of our difference of opinion in as far as the leadership perspective, both at the level of the region or even the province, we must then not collapse the ANC by putting at the front our own subjective interests as individuals, those that wanted to be elected at least. We appealed to comrades that the ANC is bleeding, that the ANC continues to erode and collapse on a daily basis, and therefore we must at least try and self-correct and ensure that we don't collapse what is remaining of the organization. So we tried everything. And in fact, even the interim order, Daron, what is strange about it is that the interim order instructs the ANC. It says the ANC must apply its own internal mechanisms and systems to resolve all disputes before it attempts to convene a regional conference of Rhubusana. And guess what? When we came back from the provincial conference, comrades just simply gathered themselves and conducted the sketch and elected to be a regional conference in contempt of the court order. So that is the type of arrogance and entitlement. And even after the order yesterday, we saw many of them parading, alleging that their proximity to certain leaders of the ANC who have close alliances with certain members of the judiciary will work in their favor, and therefore, no matter how long this matter is in court, it will always come out in their favor. That's the type of arrogance and entitlement that comrades have.
Where do we go to from here? The court order, which, according to a press release from the ANC, they will oppose or appeal against. But where do matters go from here? How do you reconcile?
Well, we don't reconcile immediately. At least we don't reconcile with the undertone of arrogance and total undermine of the judiciary. One thing for us that stands out, which is very strange, is how the PEC statement seeks to insult the judiciary by alleging that the judiciary issues out illegal orders. Because it suggests that we obtained, or at least our legal counsel obtained, the order through illegal means. We're not sure how you would obtain a court order through an honorable court, through a legal process. For us, that is an insult. So, what is clear though, which is the reality from that time and moving forward, is that there is an order in place. We believe it should be enforced. We also appeal to the National Executive Committee to communicate directly as to what do they believe or to take place in Rhubusana as we are preparing for meetings and sitting BJMs for the 55th National Conference. So we then need the NEC to give us a clear direction as to what ought to take place. Lastly, we don't believe that the province would be neutral on this matter because, by extension, the domino effect of the Rhubusana court case touches on also the legitimacy of the provincial conference. Because we had gone to the provincial conference, and our comrades who are inside plenary had argued severely to say they are appealing to the likes of Comrade Mutfaleti and the rest of the PTT at the time of the ANC that reduce Rhubusana so that we do not have a tainted outcome of the provincial conference. Should they be nullified by a court after their matter has been finalized to court? We are now vindicated because that day has came and comrades had opted to side with their own factional and subjective interests as opposed to tapping onto their realm of consciousness and understanding that indeed there is an injustice that is taking place here in Rhubusana. So we appreciate the order. We want its full implementation. With the issue of them indicating to appeal it is well within their right. But for now, there's no leave to appeal granted. So the order is still enforced. It must be enforced. Alleging that you will do this or that, we'll meet with it there in court and when they do. It's well within their right.
Mr. Sokomani, it sounds like a very, very complex situation, and it doesn't sound at the moment as if the sides are going to reconcile anytime soon. We will follow the matter with great interest, and we do appreciate you joining us on the Daily Dispatch in discussion today. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Daron.
That was the Daily Dispatch in discussion with Daron Mann.